From childhood, I had a mother who seemed like the Virgin Mary. She possessed a compassionate heart like a Bodhisattva, always believing everyone had their own suffering, always murmuring that suffering loss was a blessing, teaching me to understand others, to put myself in their shoes. From the moment I could remember, she always asked me to sacrifice myself to help and benefit others, naturally, while also helping her build her image as a living Bodhisattva. Because of this, my brother Alex and I suffered many hardships from a young age. Yet, when those hardships fell upon her, she was anything but pleased. Still, she was my mother, so I felt compelled to protect her somewhat. But every time I stepped in to defend her, she had already magnanimously forgiven others long ago. People should be tolerant of each other. Eleanor, you must learn to forgive others. She always said that. Whenever I argued or had conflicts with my father and Alex, my mother Eleanor always played the mediator, smiling brightly, saying that a harmonious family led to smooth sailing. My mother took all the credit for being good, while I became the villain, disliked both inside and out. This caused my relationship with my father and Alex to deteriorate further. So, when the mistress pushed me down the stairs, the first person my father protected was her. Eleanor, as usual, sided with my father, standing beside him with a stunned expression. It was someone else who carried me, bleeding profusely, into an ambulance. By the time I reached the hospital, I had missed the golden hour for treatment. But I didn't vanish from this world immediately. I saw my mother then leverage my father's guilt and her impeccable reputation to force him back to her side. I smirked, then closed my eyes. Perhaps heaven took pity on me and sent me back to the past. Facing my mother, who was sobbing and complaining before me, I earnestly advised her to forgive my father. Eleanor, you're my mother after all. Eleanor looked at me, her face streaked with tears and snot. I smiled at her, my gaze firm. A harmonious family leads to smooth sailing. Isn't that what you always taught me? I clutched my belly, feeling the distinct movements of the fetus within, a sign that the baby was strong and healthy. This life, I will surely protect my child. Eleanor was momentarily speechless, choked by my words. I gently chided, Mother, really, don't be petty over small matters. Be more forgiving towards father and Alex. A hint of displeasure crossed my face, as if I were scolding her for being unreasonable. My mother looked at me, a flicker of grievance in her eyes. She was always good at reading people's expressions, always afraid of losing face, afraid of being unsupported. You're right, she said reluctantly, wiping away tears from the corners of her eyes. Noticing my shift in attitude, she became more reserved. Ah, a true mother's concern, she said tenderly. You're pregnant, you need extra nutrition. Today I'll cook some soup for you, all right? Her voice was laced with a hint of ingratiation. I gave a faint smile. The worse someone treated her, the harder she tried to win them over, to convert them. In my past life, I feared she would feel wronged and cared for her devotedly. The result? She naturally sacrificed me to perfect her own life. I rubbed my belly, thinking of the past, a fleeting chill in my eyes. Perhaps she sensed the change, for she quickly grabbed her basket and hurried out, her retreating figure a mix of haste and confusion. I couldn't help but let a faint smile play on my lips. That evening, Daniel returned home to find my mother busy alone in the kitchen. He scratched his head, a little unaccustomed to the sight, while I uncharacteristically sat aside, snacking with no intention of helping. The atmosphere was a little strange. Eleanor smiled, calling us to dinner. On the table were steaming dishes, making one's mouth water. You've worked hard, Mom. You should eat too, Daniel said, pulling her to sit down. It's no hardship at all. As long as you two are happy, I'm happy, my mother replied, beaming, looking very benevolent. She scooped a bowl of cloudy white fish soup for me. Eleanor, the baby in your belly needs nourishment. Try this fish soup. Today, I specially went to the market to buy tilapia. Eating lots of fish is good for the baby, she said with utmost sincerity, as if it were the noblest deed. But she conveniently forgot that from childhood, tilapia fish soup was my most detested dish. She always did things she believed were right, touching everyone around her and making them think she was an amazing mother. I didn't take the bowl of soup. Her hand hovered awkwardly in midair. The soup was indeed cloudy white, but it couldn't hide the strong, unpleasant, fishy smell. My stomach immediately churned. Unable to hold it in, I ran to the bathroom and vomited violently. Mom, let me take Eleanor, Daniel interjected, helping me out. Eleanor has become very sensitive to smells and tastes since getting pregnant. With that, he took the bowl of soup and drank it all. Given an out, she graciously stopped. When I returned to the table, she looked at me with mournful eyes, as if blaming me for not understanding her heart. I pretended not to notice, while Daniel continued to play mediator, drinking quite a bit of the fish soup and declaring that my mother's cooking was truly delicious. But that night, he had to keep running to the bathroom, his face pale. Panicked, I had to take him to the hospital. The doctor said he was fine, just that he'd eaten something not fresh. Immediately, my mind went back to that night's dinner. The next morning, when Eleanor went out to shop, I secretly followed her. "Oh, buying fish again?" The fish vendor greeted with a smile. "Still buying the promotional fish today? Our stock is even bigger today." The vendor's eyes gleamed as she looked at my mother. My mother hesitated for a few seconds, then nodded. "Give me a few." I watched as the vendor pulled a barrel of fish from a hidden corner. Inside were rotting, dead fish. Some even reeked, with flies buzzing around them. A fire of indignation immediately flared within me. My mother knew I was pregnant, yet just to save a few coins, she bought rotten, dead fish to cook with. I clutched my belly, taking a deep breath to suppress my anger. "Mom!" I suddenly appeared before her, startling her. She quickly hid the dead fish behind her back. I turned to the fish vendor, recalling Daniel's weakened state last night, and challenged her. "Is this what you sell to people? Do you know? Eating this can cause food poisoning." The vendor snapped, "Go away, don't interfere with my business. Seller is willing, buyer is agreeable, what's it to you?" A crowd began to gather. The fish vendor, unable to bear it, rolled her eyes and shouted, "This girl is so immoral, daring to slander me for selling stale fish. Pregnant, yet so foul-mouthed, be careful, it's not good for the baby." The people around us started pointing and gossiping about my mother and me. I suppressed the anger rising within me again, coldly calling the Market Management Bureau. Let the professionals handle professional matters. When the vendor was fined, her face was contorted with resentment. Eleanor, however, rushed to apologize to the fish vendor. "I won't buy fish here anymore. My daughter doesn't like your fish." Everyone around looked at her, not understanding why she was apologizing to someone who sold rotten fish. My mother even wanted to offer compensation to the vendor. Everyone knew my mother was renowned for her kindness in the neighborhood. I gripped her hand tightly, my face darkening. Didn't my mother hear the mockery around us? My mother, now losing face, turned to throw a tantrum, forcing me to apologize to the vendor. "The people in this neighborhood all know each other. What are you doing? If you don't apologize to her, I won't come home today." Her eyes were red-rimmed, as if she were terribly wronged. "Mother taught you to put yourself in others' shoes and think. It's hard for people to earn money. How could you do such a thing?" She stood on her so-called moral high ground, criticizing me, trying to portray herself as noble, even though I was simply defending my legitimate rights as a consumer. I retorted angrily, "Don't forget, Mother, your son-in-law is still in the hospital after eating the fish soup you cooked." "Perhaps Daniel ate something else unclean," my mother argued, her face flushing. I took a deep breath. Reasoning with her was useless. "If you don't want to come home, then don't. This house, if you don't come back to it, then don't ever come back." With that, I turned and walked away. The onlookers eagerly watched the unfolding drama, as if witnessing a strange play. Everyone was seeing this kind of mother for the first time. It was truly rare. Eleanor's face flushed crimson, clearly unable to bear the surrounding whispers. She stomped her foot, then turned and went home. That evening, as I drove Daniel home from the hospital, I discovered my mother had packed all her belongings, left the keys on the coffee table, and silently left the house. Later that night, my brother Alex called. "Sister, what's wrong with you? Mom came home crying nonstop. Come home immediately." His voice was full of accusation. "I can't explain it clearly to you. Go and experience it yourself," I said, my voice distinctly cold. "If you don't want Mom to take care of you, then fine." "Mom's right, you really are ungrateful and heartless." Alex, full of indignation, angrily hung up. Hearing the phone slam down, I let out a faint, sarcastic chuckle. "Oh, my dear brother, the soft blade hasn't pierced you yet, so how could you know the pain?" From childhood, the relationship between Alex and me had always been tense. My mother constantly embellished and exaggerated our conflicts. Even when I was wrongly accused, she blamed me. She did the same with my brother. She called it helping us motivate each other. But in reality, it was like raising two fighting cocks, hoping we'd fight to the death. Her good reputation spread far and wide. Everyone praised her for raising her children well. Everyone said my father, Richard, had accumulated 800 years of good karma to marry such a kind and benevolent wife, who also had 2 obedient children. But who knew that reputation was built with my and Alex's blood and tears? In my past life, When my brother was taking the civil service exam, his written score was exceptionally high. That position had been his dream for a long time. So he studied diligently through countless sleepless nights. But the person who ranked second, somehow hearing about my mother's reputation as a good person, came to her, crying and lamenting their poverty, saying their age limit for the exam was almost up, and this was their last chance. So my mother, wanting to maintain her good person image, arbitrarily decided for my brother. On the very day of the interview, she locked him in his room and took the key. Alex was forced to tear up fabric, tie it into a rope, and climb down from the 5th floor. But how could a few pieces of fabric support the weight of a grown man? As a result, my brother was crippled for life, becoming disabled from that day forward. Mom believes you'll succeed. You only lost a leg, you still have many other opportunities, my mother had said. She thought saving one family was worth that price. Every time I remember her bizarre actions, I feel suffocated. Now, Alex was still happily eating the bauzi my mother made for him, innocently unaware. Of course, I had to go back to my father's house. Today was a very special day. It was the anniversary of my death in my past life. When I used my key to open the door and enter the house, my mother was sitting on the sofa, wiping away tears. I casually walked in, said nothing, sat down, scrolled on my phone, comfortably waiting for the show to begin. He must be coming home soon, and he'll bring a surprise gift. Indeed, he returned hand in hand with the mistress from years ago, the two of them intimately together. Your mother and I are getting a divorce, my father, Richard, announced seriously. Richard, what wrong have I done to you? My mother, frail and tearful, looked truly pathetic. I bit into a sweet and sour apple, its taste perfectly suiting a pregnant woman like me, watching the drama unfold as I ate. Sister Eleanor, don't be angry, this mistress is even younger than me, I said, a cold smile playing on my lips as I looked at my mother. Compared to her old, wilting white flower, that woman was clearly much fresher and prettier. It's tough for father, truly, I thought. Food is hard to eat, and even excrement is hard to swallow, but young people nowadays truly aren't picky, they'll eat anything. In my past life, I had cursed and insulted that shameless woman, only to be pushed down the stairs and die young. My mother, to keep my father, even planned to sign a waiver, using my death and sacrifice, coupled with my father's guilt, to bind him to her. But in this life, I wasn't going to step in again. Father, don't you feel guilty towards mother? Alex found this whole situation ridiculous. What kind of love is this? She looks even younger than my sister. There's no love left between your mother and me. Staying together would only torment each other further, my father replied indifferently. Eleanor cast a pleading glance at me. I knew she wanted me to defend her as I had in my past life, but this time, I wasn't going to be a fool. Mother, don't dwell on it. They say in love, the unloved one is the third party, I calmly advised her, completely unlike my past self. Everyone immediately turned to look at me with astonished eyes. Eleanor, are you crazy? Alex turned to my mother in disbelief. Mother needs to be more magnanimous. A harmonious family leads to smooth sailing. I smiled brightly at my father. I agree with your divorce. After all, you both will always be our parents. But father, for all these years, mother has taken care of us with both effort and hardship. Leaving the house and car to her should be no problem, right? The house and car both contain my and Alex's money, so we have a say in who they go to. Eleanor is right, my father mused for a moment, then nodded. He didn't care, he just wanted to quickly live with his young mistress. Eleanor, the house and car are yours. You've worked hard raising Eleanor and young Alex all these years. Richard thought to himself that he had enough children anyway, and with his pension and my brother's future support, a comfortable old age wouldn't be difficult. But the young mistress was anything but pleased. I looked at her, unable to hide my triumphant expression. Her face clearly showed her fury. Poor Mr. Richard, he thought he'd found true love, but without a house or car, do people desire him because he's old or because he's dirty? In my past life, I only thought of my mother, blinded by emotion. In reality, my father was easily swayed. One only needed to push things in the right direction to get everything into their hands. After my father left with his mistress, Eleanor immediately burst into a fit of rage at me. What kind of child advises their parents to divorce like you? Ungrateful. She picked up an ashtray and threw it directly at me, completely disregarding my pregnancy. Even Alex gasped in fear. Mother, father has already cheated. Why do you want to keep him? Besides, I've helped you secure the greatest benefits. Aren't you satisfied yet? I tilted my body to dodge. The ashtray crashed to the ground, shattering. Don't throw things around carelessly, you might hit your grandchild. I looked at her coldly. Alex looked at me with a complicated expression. He knew I had just secured the best outcome for our mother. Alex, take good care of Mom. I squeezed his hand, leaning in to whisper a few words. A flicker of realization crossed his face, but he quickly regained his composure. I knew what Eleanor was thinking. In her past life, she had fantasized that my father would regret leaving, that he would return because she was a good wife, a virtuous woman in the eyes of the world. That's why, in the past life, good person Eleanor had locked Alex's door on the day of his interview, sacrificing her own son to fulfill another's future. So noble and selfless, how touching for her reputation, she cared nothing for the life or death of her children. Alex stood on the upper floor, watching Eleanor's figure recede, his eyes filled with disappointment. He returned to his room, opening the hidden box under his wardrobe. Inside was the key I had secretly given him earlier. In my past life, only Alex still had a shred of conscience. When I lay in a pool of blood, it was he, with his crippled legs, who carried me to the hospital. Thanks to my intervention in this life, he finally got the job he wanted. Meanwhile, the second-ranked candidate, harboring resentment, spread rumors everywhere about Eleanor's untrustworthiness. Good deeds go unnoticed, bad deeds spread far and wide. Eleanor quickly became infamous, even the old incident with the fish vendor resurfaced. At the market, everyone looked at her with scrutinizing eyes. Gradually, she didn't dare to leave the house. Hearing these things, Alex's attitude towards his mother also changed, his heart in turmoil. He hadn't expected his mother to secretly stab her own family in the back with such a soft blade. Eleanor had dug a pit for him, almost causing him to fall in. Indeed, the soft blade only truly hurts when it pierces oneself. But then Alex quickly forgave his mother. After all, she was his birth mother. After all, Alex had secured a stable job. After all, what 3 people said about rumors becoming truth. After all, family ties were blood. He comforted himself in this way. With a stable career, Alex thought love would also come his way. Not long after, he found a girlfriend. Thinking that his mother living in the old house was inconvenient and subject to neighborhood gossip, he decided to rent an apartment near his workplace and brought Eleanor to live with him. I sighed. This brother of mine was not inherently bad, he just hadn't truly understood who Eleanor was. The key I gave Alex that day was also a way to repay him for carrying me to the emergency room in my past life. The house and car I helped Eleanor secure also counted as me fulfilling my duty. I had changed the tragedy of my past life. Eleanor also lost what she valued most. Life was given by parents, and the debt of birth was considered paid. My daughter was born healthy, an incredibly adorable baby girl. My mother-in-law wholeheartedly helped me care for my grandchild and looked after me during my postpartum recovery. I no longer wanted to dwell on old grievances, I just wanted to live peacefully. But unexpectedly, my mother arrived with her luggage, waiting at my doorstep, incessantly gossiped about by the neighbors. "Aren't you supposed to be at Alex's house, Mother? Why are you here?" I looked at her, my eyes growing profound. "Alex and I had a bit of a misunderstanding," she replied awkwardly. "Why don't you go back to your own house? Father left you the house, didn't he?" I looked at her with blatant sarcasm. "Can't I come visit my grandchild? After all, I am her grandmother, I have a responsibility to care for her," she said, puffing out her chest. I looked at her, not replying. Eleanor looked at me awkwardly, her eyes appearing truly pitiful. "Sister-in-law, come in," my mother-in-law, a truly honest person, said, carrying the baby and welcoming Eleanor inside. I narrowed my eyes at her, thinking to myself that she must have done something to anger Alex. Eleanor stammered, unwilling to explain, and showed no intention of returning to Alex. "Elara, Daniel, your father had some urgent business. I'll be home in a bit," my mother-in-law said after coaxing the baby to sleep and then left. I immediately called Alex to ask what had happened. To my surprise, after hearing his story, I was shaking with anger. Alex had found a girlfriend, and the two were very compatible, even considering marriage. But Eleanor felt threatened. She had lost her husband and daughter. Now her son was her only support. Historically, conflicts between mothers-in-law and daughters-in-law have always been a big deal. Eleanor, being manipulative, scrutinized her future daughter-in-law even more. She often secretly played tricks behind her back, but the girl was gentle and didn't want to cause trouble. Since Alex and his wife were busy, Eleanor often helped with the cooking at home. A cold sweat broke out on me. I knew what kind of cooking Eleanor did, recalling that barrel of rotten fish. Sure enough, she didn't know her future daughter-in-law was pregnant. Alex and his wife, being busy, also didn't pay attention. Eleanor, still habituated to being cheap, frequently cooked them unclean things, which led to the girl having a miscarriage. It was then that Alex finally realized his mother's bad reputation wasn't unfounded. He looked at his mother with disappointment. Eleanor, terrified, waited until Alex was busy with his girlfriend, then fled to my house. I hung up, intending to have a frank talk with her, but as soon as I stepped out, the sight before me almost made me faint. Eleanor was noisily chewing something, then feeding it to my daughter. "What are you doing, Mother? What are you feeding my baby?" I screamed. "What's wrong with you? I'm just feeding my grandchild a little mashed banana. I used to feed your brother the same way when he was little." She looked at me unhappily. I saw my daughter's face growing paler and quickly snatched her from Eleanor's arms. "What's so delicate about her? When I was little, your grandmother fed you like that too," she grumbled. "Shut up. She's so small, how can you feed her like that?" "If anything happens to my baby, you and I are done for," I yelled furiously. My daughter's face was turning purple. I was so terrified my limbs felt like jelly. "Careful, let me." Daniel quickly picked up our daughter, swiftly inverted her, placed her face down on his knee, and patted her back repeatedly. His voice also began to tremble with worry. After a few coughs, my daughter finally vomited the foreign object from her mouth. I looked coldly at Eleanor. "How many more children do you intend to harm, Mother? Killing Alex's child wasn't enough. Now you want to kill your own grandchild too?" She lowered her head, clearly looking guilty. "I just wanted to," she stammered. My face was now utterly weary. I had no strength left to argue further. "It's morning, Mother. You should go home. Her paternal grandmother will take good care of her. Rest assured, Alex and I won't abandon you or Father. We'll send your monthly living expenses on time." Eleanor trudged back to the house Richard had left her, like a lonely old woman, looking truly pathetic. But the pitiful often have a hateful side, and this time, no one stepped in to defend her anymore. On Alex's wedding day, neither Eleanor nor Richard were invited. Daniel and I attended as representatives of the groom's family. Alex's gaze at me was complex. That day, he drank a lot, his face full of doubt, as if seeking answers. I knew what he wanted to ask, so I gently patted his shoulder. "Not all parents are good parents." "Sister, do you hate them?" Alex looked up, his eyes red-rimmed. "Last night, I dreamed of you, covered in blood, and I was carrying you running." His voice stammered. The dream was so real it terrified him. In the dream, he saw himself locked in his room on the day of the interview. He realized that from childhood, both he and I had been our mother's sacrifices. That dream made him understand that his wings had been broken by his mother long ago. He also remembered the key I had secretly given him that day. I looked into his hazy eyes, seeing my past self reflected there. I gently stroked his head, just as I used to when we were small. "Whether we hate or don't hate, it doesn't matter anymore. What's important is that we both have our own lives now." I knew Alex was a smart child and also kind-hearted. Forgiveness was only a matter of time. But I didn't expect that not long after, Alex and I would be summoned by the police. Eleanor sat in a wheelchair, both her legs amputated. Richard stood behind her, furtively pushing her, his gaze evasive. Eleanor had finally signed the waiver. She looked at me, her eyes filled with complex emotions. Whether it was me or Alex, both of us had warm families and fulfilling lives, but she didn't understand why, despite living well, she wasn't happy. That day, while out on the street, she saw Richard shopping for his mistress, carrying large and small bags of things she had never had, feelings she had never received. Her entire life, she had sacrificed for her family, but in the end, she had nothing in her hands. So, in despair, she rushed forward and struggled with Richard. Richard instinctively pushed her away, just as a truck sped past. Heaven truly sees everything in the human world. Karma had come to fruition. Richard agreed to remarry, while Eleanor lost both her legs. But a marriage can be reconnected. What about love? I didn't know why they continued to torment each other like that. I also didn't understand why Eleanor stubbornly clung to those meaningless things. Alex and I drove them home. No one spoke a word the entire way. Eleanor seemed to want to say something, but then stopped. After taking them upstairs, Alex and I left, but before our car even reached home, we received another call from the police. Neighbors, hearing a loud noise, went to check and found the door unlocked. Inside the house, they saw shattered glass fragments and two bodies covered with white sheets on the floor. Alex and I fell into a deep silence. No one expected such an outcome for them. We handled their funeral arrangements with utmost care. Although everyone knew their past, they now held their peace for the departed. I knew that until the very end. Eleanor never understood that living stubbornly and forcing things only makes happiness slip through your fingers like sand. The tighter you hold, the more it slips away. Hate or love, all of it was just fleeting clouds now. The most important thing at this moment was to cherish the present life. Alex's side story. From childhood, I disliked my sister. Her personality was so strange. Mother always told me I had to be tolerant and magnanimous because she was my elder sister. Everything she did, everything she said was for me. Later, I realized those words weren't my sister's but my mother's. I don't know why, but since my sister became pregnant, her personality completely changed. My sister became calmer, with a sharp, cold look in her eyes. She no longer cared about this family. That day, my mother returned from my sister's house, sitting on the sofa, crying her eyes out. Mother said that a daughter, once married, is like a bowl of water spilled. She now only sided with her in-laws. My sister made me feel cold-hearted. I secretly thought that if I ever married, I would definitely treat Mother well. But then, it was Mother herself who made me feel even colder. I studied arduously for over a decade, only to finally secure a golden opportunity, which my mother almost handed over to someone else for free. That job was my lifelong dream. For over 10 years, only one position was open, and countless people wanted to seize it. For it, I barely slept in a bed for almost a year, staying up late every day to study, seeing it as the path to my dream. Finally, I overcame countless rivals and achieved a high score. But too many people wanted that position, and unhealthy competition was rampant. The second-ranked person, somehow hearing about my mother's benevolent reputation, came to her. I asked Mother, but she stammered, unable to speak. Still, I didn't take it to heart. Who would harm their own child? That day, Mother returned from my sister's house, crying again. I finally couldn't take it anymore, thinking, could Mother actually harm her own child? Does she really have to be so heartless? Before I could even go to argue with my sister, Father delivered a huge shock. I knew Father wasn't respectable, but I never expected him to be so foolish. In truth, I had long noticed the cracks in their relationship. My mother always wanted to be the perfect person to keep Father, living too strained a life. But love is like a broken mirror. Once cracked, it's hard to heal. So when my sister told them to divorce, I didn't stop them. Fortunately, Father still had a bit of conscience, leaving assets for Mother. I had promised to take good care of Mother. When my sister left, she secretly gave me a key, telling me to hide it carefully. She also reminded me to prepare a backup application for the interview, even secretly hiding an alarm clock. She told me absolutely not to let Mother know. She whispered to me that if I didn't want to lose the #1 spot, I shouldn't let Mother find out. I was struck as if by lightning because I had never told anyone I was ranked first. By habit, I wouldn't tell anyone anything until it was certain. Yet my sister knew. Well, better to believe than to doubt. I listened to my sister and hid everything in the corner of my closet. That night, Mother gave me a glass of milk, telling me to drink it to reduce stress and that my application was ready on the table. I pretended to agree but poured the milk away. Late at night, Mother secretly entered my room, took all my documents and my phone. I feigned sleep, my heart in extreme panic. The next morning, watching Mother's figure leave early, I found her truly alien. The door was locked, so I used the key my sister gave me, took my backup application to the interview, and succeeded. But then, my mother's bad reputation spread everywhere. I hadn't expected her to be so naive. Sister was right, but in the end, I still softened. I thought it must just be a misunderstanding, what mother would harm her own child. But it wasn't until my own child was harmed by her that I was forced to believe. That day, I had a long and terrifying dream. My niece wasn't born, and I didn't get that job, and the culprit was my mother. I was scared, not understanding why Mother would do such a thing. I also felt remorse. If all of that was true, my sister's grievances were no less than mine. Mother no longer dared to face us. I heard that day she went to my sister's house and almost killed my niece. I sighed. On my wedding day in the family row, there were only my sister and brother-in-law. The sister I once hated took the place of our parents. That day, I drank a lot of wine. My sister told me, just keep moving forward and live your own life well. Don't let the gloomy past affect your path to happiness. From that day on, I let go of all resentment. Now, both of us are living the lives we desire. Heaven is indeed fair. Our parents' karma had also arrived. My sister and I calmly handled their funeral arrangements. Whether hate or love, all of it was just the past now. The most important thing was to cherish the present. At home, my sister was complaining again about wanting to eat sour things. I heard my brother-in-law say sour food helps with nausea. I picked up the bag of pre-bought fruits and returned to the warm light of my small family's home.